Okay, well, I'm Sue Clearwater. I am a teacher. I started in first and second grade. My love was little tiny beginning readers. I just, kind of love that stage. That's where I started. And then I took a job in a homeschool situation. I was both in charter and public school. I kind of see how those are the same and different. And then took a homeschool job, 5 hours a day. Sorry. And I got to learn how that can work. And so I feel like I've had limited but broad experience. And so I thought I would just share, what ages are we dealing with here? What ages?
Elementary to high school.
Okay.
Same here.
And you've got all of them.
Elementary and middle
Okay.
school, yeah.
Okay. And
I've got elementary through high school.
right. Okay. So what I'll do is we'll just kind of hit it all and see how it goes. Some of my thoughts are more to encourage. Are you overwhelmed by this? Or are you kind of
Ask me
excited?
next Friday.
Yeah, it depends on the day.
I
And how
was
much
when
effort
we were
I put
doing
into it.
it in the spring.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
I know there's trepidation, whatever the phrase is. I think there's just some anxiety and fear, but my hope is to bring some positivity and hope that this is a great experience. And I kind of think maybe it will. I thought this was very appropriate for how we might feel like this next year is going to be. I'm going to be the mom with the horn. I don't think so. I think very little of that. I'm actually really looking forward. I thought there might be some upsides, and I thought we better point those out and watch for those. And I don't know about in your life. I've lived some life, and I have learned when something looks a little grim or daunting, I have learned that if you sort of go through it, on the other side, so often are these great experiences that you never would have had. And so I'm just going to briefly tell you a little bit about one time. My husband and I were early on in our career. He's a professional golfer he now is on the PGA Tour, but at the time, he was just out of college. It was 1985, and he was considered the premier golfer coming out of college. First team All-American. The school he'd been with was BYU. It was the #1 school, and so he had all this touting. Everyone thought, you're going to make it. It'll be great. And with the PGA Tour, there's a 1-week tournament that determines your whole year. In October, you go and you play 4 days, and if you don't make it, you don't make it. You're done. So it's not like being recruited out of college or something in football. So obviously what happened, he goes and he plays well the first 3 days. He's on track. Everything's great. Our plan is he'll make it. We'll have a great year. On the 4th day, something happens. He misses the cut by 1 shot. And so we just cry. And it's like the moment you find out, oh, we're doing distance ed. Oh, great. It's that moment of this is the reality. And so it was pretty discouraging. And I remember thinking, okay, what are our options? What's plan B? And so we looked into options. There was mini tour events. We decided, okay, we'll do the mini tours. They don't pay very much. We'll probably barely survive, but there were a bunch of events. They were all over the place. It took a lot of travel, but my husband dominated. It was so cool to watch him in action. 11 tournaments he won. And he learned how to win on this little mini tour, which I'm not sure he would have learned, right, on a regular tour. So that next October, when the tournament came around, he hit those events, knocked it out. He qualified easily. He went out and won twice his rookie year and won Rookie of the Year. Had other things that were so cool. It was just an amazing, and we felt that, the blessings of being held back a little bit and not really seeing at first how that might look. So I'm applying this to maybe some of the worry and concern about distance ed. I think it might surprise us, and maybe look for the possibilities, the good things that will come out of it. I thought an upside to distance ed might be, for the first time in history, you're listening in on conversations that are going on in the classroom. You have an ear into, if you so wish, you can hear how your child is responding. You can see the conversations that are going on and how they're interacting. Are they receiving? Are they participating? That's a good thing. You can communicate directly with the teacher and say, I noticed this. I wonder if we could do anything. So that's a good thing. I also thought project learning is high on the list for teachers. They're always supposed to do higher level learning, not just learning from the neck up, but using their eyes and their ears and their hands and, using their whole bodies to learn. Communication, interaction, multi-sensory. That's the high end of learning, right? And so for the first time, I've realized you can take a lesson that is maybe rote and boring, maybe it's a worksheet your child's been handed, and you can just elevate it a little bit. Now, I know you don't want any more work, but I think, this is the beauty of homeschool. You get a little bit of play with this. So anyway, I thought that was really good. Even the USA Today said, that it was a statement about the spring was a disaster. Teachers were just handing worksheets. They didn't know what to do. None of us were prepared. I'm sitting in a FaceTime trying to write backwards. It was just a disaster, and we all know it. And so I think we can look forward to something greater. And I just kind of wanted to show you some of the projects that we came up with. I know this is funny, but just to give you an insight into this picture, I covered her face. This is my student, and we were studying Elizabeth I. And I don't know if you know, she makes this big speech and says, "I'm Elizabeth, I'm your queen. I do not need to marry because I'm married to the British people," right? And she has this whole statement about how she'll go to war for the English people. And my girls, this kind of came to life for them. And I said, well, maybe we can practice this speech. Let's turn this into a project, right? And so they spent hours researching how she was stand, how was she painted. She had a ball in her hand and a staff. One of the girls has red hair, and so we had her be Queen Elizabeth, you can tell. I told them, you can't go home and you can't bring home any props. We have to just find whatever is around so we can kind of see. But it was really fun, and it was fun to watch them research. They got so into it. They wanted to know what the meanings were. The other girl, I have two, they're twins and they're very different, but one of them is very good with accents. And she can do a diverse number of British accents. And she researched and thought, if she's a British queen, she's probably very educated. We'll do this very proper voice. And so she, in the background of this video we made, well, the one stands there in her very regal attire, and she's speaking with her best British accent, better than I could ever do. And she's reading this thing, and we had to review it multiple times. That's a project, okay? That's what I mean when I say project. They were so into it, and it just was, did I have to do anything extra? No. I just had to spark their interest. And they got to go to a higher level. They're using their minds, their hands, their creativity, they're talking, they're interacting. And so I kind of thought that was a great example. Here's another example of Pandora's box. Just take a quick look at that. I thought she did a great job. This is the 7th graders. And do you think there's any question if she understood Pandora's box? It seemed like she understood it beautifully. She got the concept. She got what this whole thing meant. That's a project. On this was medieval. This was a medieval village. It was tiny, tiny. They did it in this little miniature. It was so small you almost couldn't see it. They spent time talking about what would be appropriate for the people that were very poor, and what would be appropriate for the other people. They really studied and got into it. So that's my idea of projects. Did I have to do anything additionally? No. Here's one on percentages. They created a play, a skit, and they had to somehow use percentages. And so they created a store, and one of them was a shopper, one of them was the store clerk, and she used an accent when she talked, one of her Valley girls, and it was just very cute. And showing that they have the skill to understand how to use percentages, right? Okay, so just so you know, I'm not sure with the high schoolers, I'll be honest, but I know it's expected for kindergarten students to be 3 hours in education of some sort. And that means projects too. And projects can go way longer. And if they're into it, it'll go even longer than that. 4 hours per day per child in elementary to, I think, 8th grade. I'm not sure about high school. So if that's the requirement, you kind of want to think about that every day. And this was what I thought might help the most. These were the ideas that came to mind. First, your physical environment. Have you had a chance to sort of think about how you're going to set up school? Have you thought about the environment you want to create? I have a picture here. I really liked that the kids were all together. They weren't isolated. I feel like such a danger of isolation if they go off. And I think we all know computers and bedrooms is a bad idea. But, having them interact, yet maybe keep enough distance that you can kind of keep an eye on them, or someone's keeping an eye on them. I thought that was a kind of a great example. They're all at the kitchen table, but they're in their own class. And then the little boy in the window, there will be times, they need to be off by themselves reading every single day. So they do need to be able to be off by themselves, but where you can see them. That's an important thing. The next thing is just kid-friendly materials. Have them accessible. I use these. I know they're gorgeous, but they work. My kids and grandkids know how to access them. A Montessori idea is to keep everything down low so kids can help themselves. It's one less thing you have to do. You don't need to get their supplies for them, have paper and pencils and all that available. And one idea, my daughters they've chosen to homeschool. They're not crazy about the distance ed. So the gray chart, what do you call that, a cart, is the one that they're using. I noticed they put all their supplies in it. They just roll it from the kitchen and throw it, back in the dining room or somewhere, so they don't have to look at it all day. I thought that was a great idea. They're about $60 at IKEA, $40. I don't know if that's, but there are other options. The other thing is structure. I don't know. Are you guys structured people? Like, you have a pretty good routine. You're a structured person. Some people are not, and this is really tough because you kind of have to be. So you might have to change a little bit if you're not a very structured person. This is just my take on it, but I think kids feel better when there's a routine. There's a security that comes from every day doing the same thing. This is a school day. We shower, we brush our teeth, we have breakfast at the same time. We start our day with prayer and scripture, and we do our routine, right? And there's actually the 6 human needs where this kind of makes sense. One of the first needs is certainty. Children need certainty. They need to count on something. They need to know that, and so routines kind of give them that constant. Just read down through some of those. Get dressed, brush your teeth. Maybe start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Read for joy every day for a minimum of 30 days with 30 minutes. I taught first grade, and a lot of kids can't read 30 minutes, but we try. We practice. We start at the beginning of the year, and we try. We practice. We say, all right, we made it to 15 minutes. Can we make it to 16 the next time? So building on that. Your older students, they should be reading every single day. They need pleasurable books that are they're excited about, and then have them in their collection. They should be counting, little ones counting. It's a basic skill, and they need that in their routine. It's something joyful and fun. They need to point and look and say. Because see, that's lighting up 3 places in the brain. The mouth requires a different place, the finger or whatever you're pointing with, and the eyes. So as many senses as we can light up at the same time. What a great, valuable thing. So counting, skip counting for older kids, 3rd, 4th, they should have a proficiency with up to 12 by 4th grade. They'll need it, I promise, in 5th grade if you haven't seen. Older students, maybe create a poetry expectation in the morning. We do our poem. I don't know if this is realistic because it's been a while since I've had my high schoolers. I taught seminary, and I know how difficult it can be. but it's an idea. I think it's something that creates a routine and an expectation that's regular. Robert Frost, Emily Dickinson. And then another idea is just, scripture, prayer, start with that same routine every day. And maybe Stephen R. Covey, he has that 7 Habits. There's different versions. There's one for elementary school kids. It's The Leader in Me. For middle school, you could use Sean Covey's book. It's a little bit teenagery, maybe. You could even use that in high school. But that's a great way to start, in my opinion. Next, yeah.
I found if it helps anyone, we incorporated some of those into our so when we clean up our kitchen, I found these funny skip counting songs on YouTube, and so I turned those on, and everyone would be skip counting while we clean the kitchen. So it's kind of like not adding more things to our day. It's just something that we did while we were doing other things. So sometimes if you can find ways to work it in like that, then it's not just another to-do list item to check off.
I love that, and it becomes sort of the routine while you're cleaning up. Oh, let's turn on our. I love that. What a great idea. And you're not wasting time. That's great, and it's learning time. I love that. Okay, the next thing is anchor charts. Sounds really complex, doesn't it? I don't know why they call them this. It's just posters that have the information kids need to succeed on their own. So, for instance, the first one. It looks like a writing checklist for little firsties, like little young ones. The expectations that the teacher will have. I didn't make these. None of these are mine. I just found them online, and I use them. Printer is your best friend. So you don't have to spend the time, but it's something, you don't have to post them around your house. You can if you want, but just have them in a file for English language arts and for math. They will need to refer back to these things, like especially with writing. Here's a 7th grade where it says argumentative writing. They'll do it once and they'll forget the second time. So if you have that in your file, they can refer back to that. Oh yeah, I remember the elements of argumentative writing. Also, I think division is probably the most difficult to remember all the rules. I found my students forget often, and so if they have an anchor chart, they know where to go. They can just. So anchor chart is just a poster, a fancy word for poster with a bunch of facts. If you can find out what the teachers are expecting of your children, print them out, put them in a file. Hey, this goes in your file. You might need this week. Just an idea. Also, the structure. You're already very structured. You probably are already doing this, but a planner. Or I made a mistake. When I first started, I thought, okay, I've got 6th graders. I'll just give them a week-long assignment. Whatever they can schedule on their own. And they were completely overwhelmed. It was too much to expect them to figure out how much to do per day. I needed to break it down into small chunks for them. And you may have to do that as well. So I gave them a daily assignment and a big box that they could check when they're done. Check. There's a feeling of satisfaction with a check, right? I accomplished that, I'm done. Okay, move on. I even do it with other worksheets. If you are assigned a worksheet, if there's a way to elevate it, and that's the word I want to use, elevate. Do something project-wise that's more exciting, then great. If not, let them feel the accomplishment of, I can do 3 of these by now, but I'm not going to finish the whole page. Check. Good job, you finished 3. Feel good about that. And that's another human need we're connecting to, something to think about. Next is just some kind of behavior reward systems. Teachers use it because it works. And so I don't know if you have these in your home, but it's a great way to keep it positive. Oh, I'm going to give you points. We did this Harry Potter one right here. We had points for any time they participate, anytime they complete their work, anytime, I was trying to work on a certain behavior from a certain child, they would they'd earn those points, and it was motivating. They were kind of competing with each other. By the end of the year, we compared. They each took a house from Harry Potter, and when one wins, it's pretty fun. And we had a big reward at the end. Kind of fun. Points are a big deal, and then rewards. With little ones, you probably need to reward weekly at first, and then with the older ones, you can get a little more lengthy. Maybe reward has to be time with friends. Okay, we're going to have a group, a co-op group. We're going to study together, whatever that is. Also, behavior. You can talk about behavior. I think a lot of us feel like, oh, you just were being so naughty. Why were you being so naughty? But maybe sit down and say, I noticed struggling with staying on task on this computer is, do you think that, I noticed you went about 5 minutes, do you think you could make it to 6 minutes? We'll set the timer and track you and see, and then if you can, let's, create a reward system. And you can do it with even older kids. And I noticed you and your friends are kind of distracted. I'd really like to see you improve in that way. If we create some kind of reward that you want at the end of the week, do you think that we could track it and, you know what I'm saying? So keeping it positive, and those rewards, they're kids. I've found that old kids and young kids, they're a lot the same. They love kind of young things. The next thing is overwhelmed kids. I would probably first seek a paper option. If you find your child is sitting online and not participating, sitting back and just observing, that's probably not a great sign. They're not engaged, they're not focusing, they're not really learning anything, they're just there. They need to be participating, and there should be conversation going on, and that's something you get to see. So try a low-tech option. Tell the teacher, this just isn't working. I need packets, and then you get to elevate it where you feel like you can. You get to say, this is really boring, but anything in history, we're going to do something great, or whatever. This was a homeschool program. I have one granddaughter who did homeschool this last year, and it's called The Good and the Beautiful. Have you heard of that?
Oh yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was, I'm not here to advocate any one, but one thing they had was for overwhelmed kids, and this is where I got the idea. They have a little check. Can you see that? Each little section has a check. And there's just something about that with my granddaughter. She could check it off, and if we have to stop in the middle, it's okay. We just have a few more to finish. Overwhelmed kids just can't bite off the whole thing. They can only take a little bit at a time, and that sort of helps. By the way, that homeschool program, I noticed it was free for a month. They're downloading or something?
Well, yeah, I think it's mostly if you purchase it, because they don't have printed copies. They're behind in printing.
Okay.
So, like, if you're purchasing and you can't get your printed copy right away, you can get the first month for free.
Oh, okay. I thought it was really beautiful, and it's run by a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So I thought that was it's one I could actually say I know. I don't know all of them. The other thing, these are just basic rewards. So basic, but they are so consistent through the ages from 2 to 17. I think they all love gum. And it's one of those things, you're sitting there and you can see they're just, they're falling apart or whatever. Walk over and say, you look like you need some gum. See if that can carry you for 30 more minutes or, whatever. It's silly, but the little rewards that are probably more valuable than anything. Also, I'm probably one of the rare teachers that would use colored pens. So I would have a stash of colored pens. It just elevates it, right? Elevates writing. They didn't have to use pencil. It was the one subject they could write in color, and they could doodle, and I just felt like I wanted to bring joy to writing. And I don't think I ever had any children. Some struggled with writing and putting words down in little firsties, by the end of the year, most of them had it. But it was, I think even older kids. I know my junior high kids, my middle school, they love writing with pen. So that's just an easy, element to give them a little joy, elevate it. The next thing is, have in mind that these are social beings, and they need to be with each other. They need to have friends. They need to connect. If you have a tiny family, maybe there's someone else that has children that you could connect with and do a co-op. And that's one of the reasons we're sort of doing this, is to try and put people together. There are people that are my age that have no children at home, but we would be happy to do some kind of, take your kids for a day and do some kind of learning environment for them so you get a little bit of a break, and you can help each other out, support each other in that way. So that's kind of the goal. This is more for little tiny kids. Oops, maybe it's not going to work. No, it's not. But just silly rewards for younger kids, and I've noticed even my junior high kids, my middle school, they respond, and it's like a video that says, da 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 da, and freeze, and move, and freeze. Just silly. just to take a break and again use their whole bodies, not just from the neck up. Okay, what else do I have here? Just some things I think absolutely from kindergarten to 17-year-old seniors, I think you need whiteboards. And I don't know if you can get them anymore. Everybody's going crazy and buying them. I had a parent, you can tell these are really old, but I had a parent go out to Home Depot. They bought this material and they cut them up for me, and I got like 30 of them. But they're really, they just, like I say, elevate. They give kids a chance to write a problem, math problem in color, in giant numbers, and there's just something about that that's more satisfying than a white piece of paper, you know? And so I'm a big believer in that, you know, giant dice, odd sizes, throw them and then they have to go run after them. Big kids like this too. Materials in clear containers. Let's see. Oh, dice with numbers that go to 10. So you can do a little higher numbers. Those are really helpful. If I were getting supplies, these are the things we've used repeatedly. Another thing, oh, these are just examples of anchor charts. You know how we talked about anchor charts? I just put these up when I knew they'd be covering this subject. They're not beautiful. They're kind of homemade-y. But the kids could look up. They knew where they were. They knew how to find them. And a proper noun, and then an example. Just a basic anchor chart. Another thing, this is for very young kids, but it can be done with big ones. Something about working with a marker, it's just fun, you know. So elevate the fun level, because why? Because kids who are having fun are learning, usually, as long as it's, you know, good kind of fun. All right, did I have anything else on there? Oh, I have to give you some possibilities. Let me see if this will work. No, it won't. There's a program called Montessori Preschool app for anybody who's got beginning readers. Pass that along. I think it's a really helpful app. There's others too, but I thought it was very good. It does cost, but certainly worth it. Another one is an egg timer. You need an egg timer of some sort. Timers give kids boundaries. They need boundaries. They need certainty. They need to know that you've limited that time frame and that they have a limited time to get it done. And that's just like in real life, we have to do that. There's one that I was going to show you. I don't know why it's not working, but it's not. So it was working earlier. But it's a stopwatch, and it's just a big thing like this. This is a 30-minute, and I have to say this wasn't terribly effective. It's not visible enough. I don't think you can really see the sand, but it's like this. It's cartoon, and whatever time you set on. Okay, I'm going to set the timer for 30 minutes. Let's see if you can get this assignment done. Boom. And they can kind of visually watch as the sand fills in this cartoon, and then finally it blows up or whatever. So it's kind of fun. Another thing is mathantics.com. Have you ever used that?
I haven't.
Something, I don't know why, I just found Rob. His name's Rob. And I wanted to show you tonight. I'll see if I can come up with it after. But Math Antics is a gentleman who decided that he needed to use videos to teach not only kids but parents the language and how to communicate math. And it's fun. It's on a kid's level, but really, really great. I struggled because I couldn't remember any of the concepts that I had learned. I had to go back and relearn as a teacher and just couldn't remember. And so it was very helpful for me. You're welcome to have my password if that helps. They have worksheets that you can actually practice with, and then they show you how to do it correctly in a video that shows you the steps. And so I thought that was very helpful. And then there's something called Symbol Lab for older kids. You can type into, like, this is for parents who might find themselves completely confused with math, or they can't remember the rules, they can't remember the steps. And so this lets you plug in, I wouldn't tell my kids about this, but it lets you plug in a problem using the symbols and things with more advanced math, and it'll show you the steps and give you the answer. So really helpful as a parent if you're not certain how to help your child. It's called Symbol Lab. Next is, that's probably it. When it's not working, they're gonna have days like we all know, right? Teachers know this too. Some days it's just not gonna work, and your expectations have to be prepared for that, right? The distance ed might just be a disaster some days. And if so, it's okay to stop. It's okay to, take a break. I think teachers know this. They, homeschool moms know this, that some days it's just not going to work, right? It's kind of a disaster. Let's stop. Let's not let it get negative, and let's go somewhere and do something different, and then readdress it another day. Okay, so you have permission. And when it's not working, another thing is just to consider, what are the needs of my child? What's not working? Maybe they're just hungry. And we learned in our family really fast that we're not very good when we're hungry. And we get in arguments when we're hungry, and then we'd eat and be like, everything's great. So physical needs, make sure they're hydrated, they have water. It's super important to know their needs. It's been a while. I used to teach firsties and second graders, and it was like right around noon, I would get this whiny, kind of grumpy children, and I realized, oh my gosh, they're starving. They're hungry. They're not used to going this distance. So it's a reality. And older kids too, they may need a snack. Often my students will come without having eaten breakfast. And they can't focus. It just doesn't work. So consider that. And then I just thought, those first 3 human needs, take a look at them. There are 6. But I think the first 3, isn't it interesting that we as humans need certainty? We need to know what's going to happen. We need to count on something. Especially in this time when it's COVID and everything's so unknown, we need that. And so no kids, they need to feel that certainty. So if I could put a plug in for you, and I get nothing but positive vibes from you, so I probably am telling the wrong people, but be very considerate and thinking about the communication you have with your children. You may not have the greatest teacher. You may not have the greatest situation, and it's worth a complaining session. It truly is, but maybe not with your child in tow. I would highly suggest those conversations happen with your friends. Go out to lunch and whine and complain on each other's shoulders, see how you can help each other. But I wouldn't lay that on children. They have enough. This is a generation of suicides, of anxiety, and we don't always know why. I'm not sure we know what's going on. But we don't need to burden them with our adult feelings, right? So I've heard parents complain to their children, and they're giving 2 things. One is they're giving permission for children to fail because they're saying, oh, the teachers don't. So, that's an excuse for the child not to do well. And the other thing is, it's a burden that you're placing on that child, giving them worries and concerns that are adult-like and enough. They just have enough. So anyway, enough said. I'm probably not even talking to the right people, but it's just a thought that's come to my mind several times as I've thought about the anxieties of parents. And quickly, those human needs. And notice that we have a need for certainty, but we also have a need for uncertainty. I think that's so interesting. We're so complex as human beings. We need to jazz it up. We need, after it's gotten kind of boring, we need to jazz it up. It's kind of interesting, right? And then last of all, we need to feel significant. So as children, they need to feel like they've accomplished something. And that's why I believe in the check. It's a little accomplishment, but I finished this. It feels good, right? And so the others are important too. Love and connection. They're missing connection. So that's sad. Whatever you can do to build that within your families or with neighbors and friends where you're doing your small co-ops. Also, I think it's really important to understand the attention span of children. It's a real thing, right? I sat down with my grandchild. So you double their age, and that's the base level that you can expect. If they can go beyond that, great. But most kids, sometimes I think we might be expecting more than they can offer. I have a little grandchild, and he announced to me that he was ready for me to teach him to read. I was so surprised. He has a bull in a china shop. He's just a active little guy, and he's just not been interested at all. He's 5 and doesn't read. And not that he can't, he just hasn't been interested, and he's finally interested. So I sat down with him, and we kind of worked on a few things. I tried to make it super positive and just lots of fun. And he lasted 5 minutes, and he was done. And I could see, okay, that's where we're starting. And so next time I sit down with him, I'm going to say, okay, Watson, You went 5 minutes of focus time. Do you think you could go 6? Let's try. So that's the goal, is set the timer, and then can he make the goal? If he does, okay, what does he get? That kind of thing. We can do that with our older kids too. I noticed you were rocking it at this point, but then it started to kind of fall apart. Do you think you could go a little longer? Give them your expectations, and don't be afraid to give it to them. I love that we expect of them, even though this is, we kind of feel sorry for them.
Can I also add something too? I had an online teacher that really emphasized, he called it the 50-10, like where they're going to be on the computers so much, like, okay, 50 minutes of hard work, give yourselves a 10-minute reward, get away from the computer and do something else for 10 minutes. It's so easy to just sit and sit and sit in front of that computer forever, because there's always more to do, right? I think especially our high schoolers, that's going to be the case.
Yeah.
But it's really important that they take those breaks and get up. Gets the blood flowing, gets the oxygen to the brain, they work better. They're a little less cranky by the end of the day.
Oh yeah, I love that. That's so important. And we've really learned through statistics and studies that they do better when they have breaks. So yeah, great idea. Okay, and when it's not working, I don't know, do you know what I can statements are? You probably know about Common Core, right? And some people aren't a fan, but this is what's required by the state. And you sort of want to know what that is, and you want to know what the requirement is for that grade, right? And if you find, you probably won't have all your children struggling at once, hopefully not. It's probably just one. And if so, they might need a little extra support. And you might have to take the bull by the horns and sort of up the game of the teacher who may not be getting it. I don't know. But I can statements can kind of give you a resource or a checklist of the things they're supposed to be learning. And they have it for every grade level. You can look them up anywhere. I can send it to you, whatever grades you need. But it gives you a little bit of a checklist. And I'll let you see kind of what that looks like. Oh, this is called like California Standards. It's an app. And you can just kind of see, is my child on target? Are they going to be confused next year because they're behind? This just gives you kind of a gauge. Are they in mastery? Mastery is like 80%. They can do this. So I can statements. This is what it looks like for a kindergartner. Anybody have kindergartners? We'll skip it if not. Okay, we'll skip it. No kindergartners. You do. You have a tiny one, don't you?
She's not kindergarten until next year.
Oh, okay. So here's a first grade. Anybody have a first grader?
You do.
Okay, so first grader, it says, this is math. I can show addition of numbers less than 20. So this, by the end of the school year, I can do this. I can add 17 plus 2 and get a proper answer. I can add 12 plus 2. So that's the expectation. And you can kind of check your child with these I can statements. Are they a 1? Not really very proficient. 2, they've got it. Or 3, they really got it. They've mastered it. We don't need to even review much. Just keep them on it. Here's a 4th grade for math. I can understand that multiplication equations can be seen as comparisons of groups. 35 equals 5 times 7 is the same as saying 35 is 5 times as many as 7 and 7 times as many as 5, so that the numbers can be reversed, right? They're into multiplication. It's good to know that's what they need to know. They need to understand those groups. And so you as a parent, even though it kind of gets confusing as they get older, I have to say high school, I'll show you one in just a minute. This is 8th grade. Can you read that? I can. I think it's something about, can't see it very well. Let's see, I know that rational numbers are something about irrational. I know the difference between rational and irrational. Can you read it? It's really fuzzy, I don't know why.
I can know the numbers that are not rational are called irrational. Understand formally that that every number has a decimal expansion, blah, 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 blah.
All right, so it's getting a little more complicated, but you as a parent could take that and run with it. Okay, they need to understand this and find resources to sort of support them in that area. Some things they'll have down. Just find the areas that maybe they need some work, and you can support them as a mom in a special way. Okay, so this is 1st grade. I can statements in ELA, English Language Arts. I can answer questions about key details in a story. So I know there's a beginning, a middle, and end. In the beginning, I know there's characters and there's a setting. In the middle, there's a problem. In the end, there's a solution to the problem. So can my child, by the end of the school year, take any story and put those elements in and recognize them, right? Boom. If they've got it, most of them will have it quickly. That's what they're requiring. Okay, let's look at ninth grade. I can make specific references to passages and events from a text to prove what the text says directly, as well as the meaning I can infer indirectly. So they're taking text, something they've read, they're finding what it's saying directly, and then sort of the undertones or the clues, and I can identify those and speak. That's something, you could take hold of. Also, with your younger kids, this is a book I've used from Core Knowledge. Core Knowledge is by E.D. Hirsch Jr. It's really a good book. You can buy them secondhand pretty well. I highly recommend it for a supplement if you've got a child who's struggling a bit in those grades. It gives you some rich literature. There's great stories. There's music. There's all of the things that, by first grade they should pretty much have this. I liked it for all grades I've used, and I've used them to supplement regular learning. Are you freezing to death? I'm sorry. It's kind of cold.
I have a blanket.
Okay,
I
so...
want to change. I'm actually feels good.
Oh, okay.
To not be hot, thank you.
Yes. Well, my air conditioning went out, so for me today, I don't know why today. It's hot. It's not too bad today, though. We could complain. So this is a list I gathered from a site called alcott.com. Have you heard of that? This is just in case you get into. I really think we should give teachers a try. I think distance ed, if you can give them a second try. None of us were prepared. I was a disaster. I know they were too. And I would say for the most part, I've been in the school system. I know what's in there. I know there's some good-hearted people. I know some people are there for the wrong motives. But I know there's good-hearted people, and they're really trying. And I think if we give them a try and see if we can hope that will get better and improve. I hope so. If not, for some children, I just feel like there's going to be this little mass of children who are not successful in this environment. It's just too hard to sit on a computer, and they're just not engaging. They're not learning. They're not developing. And if that's the case, you can see it. Then this might be an option for you. In October, you sort of have to decide. You fill out forms by October. You let the state know, let the state know what your plans are. But if you choose to go to homeschool, and I don't know if that's an option for you, it just gives you a little more control. And one is when you completely take charge of your child's education. You to divorce yourself from the public school system altogether. That's a PSA. I think you have to fill out a form. And you just find sources, and is that the path you took, or?
Yes, the charter school is not really an option right now because the governor put the caps, the legislature put the caps on enrollment. All of the charter schools, literally like 500 students on the wait list to try to get into the charter schools. It's like ridiculous. So it's pretty much the only option right now if you want to homeschool.
It's homeschool. Okay. So that may be an option.
With no grants.
There are some distance.
Yeah, you don't get any money for it.
No,
Yeah,
not
you don't
anymore.
get money. Yeah.
What was the good and the beautiful? What you were talking about? Is that
It's super affordable.
Is that
it's
what
one of the
you
most
can
affordable.
you do that though? Is that giving you a curriculum?
That's a
but it's-
curriculum.
It is
It's
a
a
total
It's just a
curriculum.
Yeah.
Karen, my sister used it. Aaron
Oh, Aaron
does.
uses
it's
well,
super awesome.
I just talked for like
It's
an
amazing.
hour or 2 hours with my sister-in-law who does Thomas Jefferson. I don't know.
Oh,
She just
TJ
read
Ed.
the book, and she just sat with me and gave me her entire schedule. And I was just curious. I just wanted, just it to be
So
better.
this is what we need, like
So,
grown-ups
right.
sitting up and talking. We need to talk and find out, okay, what's going to work for you? What's going to work
Right.
for me? I think this is so healthy, and just to start that important conversation of how are you going to do it and how are you going to do it? I talked to my daughters. I was so surprised. They're both going homeschool. I didn't think they would, but they just aren't satisfied. They're worried about their kids, and even my daughter, who's very education-minded, she's got a brilliant child, which worries me a little bit, but she says, I'm looking forward. She surprised me with her great attitude. She says, I'm looking forward. I'm thinking I'm having a brand new baby. We'll work around the schedule. It'll be a great chance to be home, work our own schedule the way we want. I've got a brand new reader who's just starting, and we're looking at it as a great opportunity. I was like, wow, you came from me. I was so impressed.
I think
But-
too, I recognize if you feel like the the distance learning in the public school is your best option, like by all means do it. But I think we need to recognize that you can be the authority in your child's life, right? I mean, normally when you send your kids to public school, you're no longer the authority. The teacher gets to be the authority because they're with them and see them learning and are in charge of them for so many hours a day. But you are in charge of them and you're in charge of your whole family. And if things aren't working, go talk to the teachers. This is not working for my child. And go with a solution if you can. I did that with several of my kids last year. This is not working. We are going to do, because I'm a little bit snotty sometimes, we are going to do this for my child because this is a better option and it will help them learn more effectively. I really appreciate your hard work. Thank you so much. I know everyone's doing the best with what they can. I think this is better for her, and I think that you should feel empowered to do that, to know that you know what's best for your child, and to say, thank you so much for your work. This is what's going to be best for my child, and this is what I'll pursue. It's a little bit trickier in high school because you've got you've got to worry about the grades and the passing on and stuff, but especially for elementary school, if it's not working.
Thank you. But that's, I think, what I'm trying to say about this whole thing is you're finally in charge. And it's probably a much better scenario than having a teacher who's in charge. Teachers will assist. Parents are really in charge of the education. You get to see firsthand. I love that. Thank you so much. Really, really important that everything that works for one child may not work for another. And the whole goal is to get them successful with whatever works. No judgment. Whatever works. So this I can forward to you if you want, or go to alcott.com. That's one option. There are probably a million others. There's a homeschooling Facebook page that's pretty good. They'll give you a lot of information. If that's the path you choose to go, and it might be just one child. This child's not thriving. I'm going to pull them from the system and make it happen. Or I'm going to do a little of both. You can supplement or whatever. But that was my purpose to come here, is to say you're empowered. That for once in your life, you're not turning your child over to a teacher, that you're really the one that is going to see to their success and really care more than anyone will ever care. And look for ways. We were talking in our last meeting, a lot of people were saying, well, what if we had someone who likes to hike that would take a group of kids, maybe 5 kids, on a certain day, twice a week or once a week or once a month, and the kids can count on it, and they got some interaction, and they got to go into the mountains and be in nature, which is very satisfying. And would they be willing to do that and give you a little break? And there were people who were like, oh, absolutely. And I'm a math star. I can help with a little group, and I can help with math, right? How exceptional would that be? And I think we have to look at the resources around us and the wonderful people that we're surrounded with and turn to them, and maybe it's hard to ask for help. But ask for help. They want to be the success of the children in this neighborhood and in this ward and in this state is a success for all of us. And we would feel terrible if one failed because we just didn't step up. So that's sort of my message today. Turn to your Father in heaven. I think He's aware of us. He knows every little thing that we're doing. He knows how hard this is. We get the enabling power of the Savior, and He can aid us and help us and give us power to accomplish things that we need to, that we can be successful at this. And there might be some little moments that are so priceless and precious in this situation. I hope you'll look for those. I just leave you my testimony. I wish you good luck. I'm thinking about you. If I can help in any way, I'll give you my phone number and you can reach out. I'll send you anything I have. I have accounts I'm happy to share. And I just say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.